Revealed. How being abandoned by my mom at 15 led to an unexpected, life-changing adventure. Jamie stood in the fading light of her small Midwestern town, a flurry of emotions twisting through her heart like a storm. Just 2 weeks ago, her mother had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only silence and confusion. The whispered conversations among neighbors echoed in her mind like distant thunder. She was just a girl 15 yet now faced the harsh realities of life alone. Each step down her quiet street felt heavier than the last, a reminder of what was lost and what lay ahead in the aftermath of her mother's departure. The weight of self-reliance crashed down on Jamie. Gone were the days of carefree childhood. She was trapped in that modest, crumbling house, surrounded by neighborhood homes that glimmered with prosperity, a painful reminder of the economic chasm beneath the surface of their all-too-ordinary lives. Inside those well-manicured lawns, families thrived while she withered. At school, longing eyes stared her down, their whispers stinging sharper than any blow. Who was she now that her mother had left? Just Jamie, the girl abandoned. Each shift at Mr. Henderson's diner brought the scent of greasy fries and coffee, and it was there Jamie met Maria. A whirlwind of energy. Maria was a single mother who fought tooth and nail for her children. "You and me, kid. We'll figure this out together," she said one late evening, the bell on the door jingling as Jamie stepped in. Their laughter bubbled like fresh soda, a momentary escape from the world outside. Maria's resilience sparked something in Jamie, a flicker of hope. They shared their struggles, both trapped in a town that offered little compassion. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just when Jamie thought her world was beginning to stabilize, a letter arrived in the mail, trembling in her hands. Her estranged mother wanted to reconnect. The flickering warmth of hope was replaced by cold dread. Memories of betrayal flooded her mind, moments of pain that were too sharp to forget. Could she forgive the one who had abandoned her? As she stood on the edge of the future, her heart raced. The opportunity for reconciliation loomed before her, a choice weighing heavily like an anvil. What if the pain of the past was too deep to heal? The sunlight faded, an orange haze falling around her as she pondered whether to open that door or close it tight, safe within her newfound independence. Jamie took a deep breath, glancing into the horizon. With her heart pounding and doubts swirling around her, she stood at the threshold of everything she yearned for. In that moment, she wondered, could she really step into the light of forgiveness, or would she choose to reclaim the hard-won strength she had cultivated? Jamie stared at the letter again, the familiar scrawl of her mother's handwriting feeling like a haunting echo. It was like seeing a ghost from the past, the one who left her in a storm of unanswered questions and sorrow. Could a mere piece of paper bridge the chasm of broken trust that separated them? She held her breath, wondering if this was a sign or a curse. The world around her felt muffled, the distant laughter of children playing outside slowly fading into a careless hum. Everything was visual, colors and shapes tangling in her thoughts. But the sound? It was like a dim buzz in her ears. This was the moment her entire future pivoted on. "You need to talk to her." Maria's voice echoed in her mind, full of determination. They had discussed this very possibility over cups of coffee and slices of pie at the diner. "You can't run away from your past. You have to confront it." Jamie had nodded at the time, yet now, as the letter burned in her hand, her resolve wavered. Could she find peace with the woman who had shattered her childhood? With a deep breath that felt endless, Jamie stepped over to her small kitchen table, shoving aside abandoned bills and old school papers. She took the letter, placing it on the clutter. Tomorrow, she promised herself. She'd open it tomorrow, steeping herself in the comfort of sleep first. Maybe the morning light would bring clarity to the diner the next day. Jamie found herself drifting in and out of a daze, lost between orders and coffee refills. The usual rhythm faded beneath the weight of her thoughts. Maria kept shooting her glances from the other side of the counter, eyes filled with questions Jamie wasn't ready to answer. "Hey, is everything all right?" Maria finally asked, wiping her hands on her apron and leaning in closer. The warmth of her presence grounded Jamie for a moment. She considered taking off her layers, revealing the confusion bubbling inside, but instead, she simply nodded, forcing a smile. "Just tired, I guess," she offered weakly. Maria's brow furrowed, but she held back further questions. They both knew there were days when silence was louder than words. After the rush of the lunch crowd, Jamie took a break at the window booth, watching the bustling street outside. Was it wrong that others appeared so carefree? Kids rode bikes, grocery shoppers caught up in their conversations, all while she remained anchored in uncertainty. The letter loomed over her thoughts like a weight in her pocket. At that moment, she decided tomorrow would be about facing the unknown. Tomorrow, she would peel back the layers of hurt and fear. Forgiveness might be unimaginable, but it was her choice to explore that path. When she arrived home that evening, Jamie paced her room, the silence amplifying her heart's erratic beats. The sun was dipping below the horizon, gauzy pink clouds wrapping the sky, a signal of change. She plucked the letter from the table, its envelope crinkling under her fingertips. Just a few words, she whispered to herself, sitting on the edge of her bed, her breath hitching as she drew in the courage to unfold the secrets within. As she tore open the envelope, her hand trembled. Would this be the moment she dared to face her history, or the moment it broke her all over again? With the words laid bare in front of her, she braced for impact, eager yet terrified. The ink held the power to alter her reality, and as she began to read, one question surged over everything else. Was she ready? The ink swam before Jamie's eyes, blurring her vision as the letter unfolded a tapestry of emotions she thought she'd long buried. The familiar loops of her mother's cursive wrote a history rich with love and pain, but the words came out harsh, striking her heart like shattering glass. "My dear Jamie," it began, each word carrying the weight of years. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but there's so much I need to explain." A lump formed in her throat, and she struggled to push it back down. She read. Snippets of her mother's life poured forth details she had never known, choices made out of desperation. It was a story of a woman lost in her own chaos, a mother who had been a girl herself, drowning under the pressures of life, and who had made the hardest choice of all. Memories streamed back, shouts, tears, and silence. Moments when the world felt like it was collapsing. She fought to remember the good times, those precious days in the park chasing butterflies, the smell of freshly baked cookies wafting through their small home. But those were overshadowed by shadows of abandonment. "Please, Jamie," the letter continued, "understand that leaving was never about not loving you. I was scared. I was lost. And I thought you would be better off." The air around her felt electric, as though the letter was summoning ghosts, sparking old feelings she couldn't contain. Anger surged, followed by an aching sadness, two powerful emotions intertwined, vying for dominance. How could she forgive someone who had walked away when she needed them the most? Just then, her phone buzzed, slicing through the tension like a knife. It was Maria checking in. "Hey, I'm closing up soon. Are we still on for our dinner?" Jamie felt a flicker of warmth in her chest, the thought of companionship pulling her away slightly from the swirling darkness. "Yeah, just a minute, okay?" She texted back, but her mind raced back to the letter, holding her captive. "I've thought about you every day since, and I wish I could take back the choices I made." There it was again, a glimmer of hope hidden beneath layers of pain. A longing for connection that Jamie craved but fought to admit. Could she allow for the possibility that her mother had suffered too, in a different way? The words danced before her, giving voice to her deepest fears and secret wishes. "Jamie, I'm ready to talk. If you will let me." A tear slipped down her cheek as she crumpled the paper slightly, fighting against the tide of feelings that threatened to overflow. What did she want? Did she want answers? Closure? Or perhaps just a chance to yell at the woman who had hurt her? With resolve, she wiped her face and looked at the clock. Dinner with Maria would give her the distraction she needed. But she knew that this conversation was only starting. It was unavoidable. She would have to decide if she wanted to face her mother again or continue to keep that door shut as she stood to leave. The letter crumpled in her hand. Jamie made a choice. She would face the aftermath of the past, for better or worse. Her heart raced with uncertainty, but beneath it lay a thin thread of hope. What now? She whispered to no one in particular, knowing deep down that the answer lay in the decision to talk to her mother, confronting the bitter truth she had avoided all along. That thought lingered like smoke in the air as she left home. Tomorrow the reckoning would begin. Would she step into the light and reclaim the daughter she had lost? Or would this plunge her deeper into shadows? The unknown loomed ahead, and with each step she took, it felt both terrifying and liberating. As the door clicked softly behind Jamie, the realization of what lay ahead settled heavily on her shoulders. Her chest tightened with every step she took down the street, the cool evening air wrapping around her like a shroud. She felt exposed, thoughts spiraling like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Dinner with Maria would bring a welcome reprieve, but as she approached the cafe, the letter's words echoed like haunting whispers. Jamie pushed the door open, the familiar bell chiming above her, but instead of the usual warmth of comfort, her heart was heavy. Maria waved from their usual corner table, a bright smile that could light up any dark corner. But even her light felt dimmed in that moment. Jamie slid into the chair, forcing a smile in return, though the corners of her mouth barely lifted. "Hey, you okay? You look a little different." Maria's eyes searched Jamie's, concern etched all over her face. "It's nothing, really," Jamie replied, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The waitress arrived, breaking the tension with a list of specials, but Jamie couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to her mother's letter. "Something's bothering you. I can feel it." Maria pressed gently after the waitress left. Jamie took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Should she share? Would venting help pull her from this emotional abyss? "My mom reached out. She sent me a letter." The words fell from her lips, almost foreign as they left her mouth. She watched Maria's expression shift instantly to something softer, something understanding. "Wow, that's big," Maria replied, leaning closer. "What did it say?" It was like opening a floodgate. Jamie found herself reflecting on her mother's words, the turmoil of emotions spilling out as she spoke. She shared the letter's essence, the love, the pain, the haunting apologies, and the desperate need for connection. Every syllable drew her deeper into the rawness of her memories. Maria listened intently, nodding and occasionally reaching out to Jamie's hand, an anchor amidst the storm. "Sounds really tough. Do you think you're going to talk to her?" "I don't know." Jamie's voice trailed off, uncertainty flickering across her features. "Part of me wants to scream and throw everything in her face. But then there's this small part that just longs for some kind of relationship. I'm scared of what might happen if I reach out. I senti that what healing is, stepping into the unknown." "You're really brave for even thinking of it," Maria said, her eyes full of admiration. Jamie felt a rush of warmth at her friend's encouragement. Perhaps she could confront this truth with someone by her side, someone who understood the tangled web of emotions involved. It was comforting to have someone to confide in who wouldn't judge her choices. Maybe it could be different this time. "I just can't shake the feeling that it could also hurt even more, you know?" Jamie admitted, her vulnerability hanging in the air between them. "Whatever you decide, I've got your back," Maria said with a reassuring smile. "And you don't have to carry this alone." As their meals arrived, Jamie found herself focusing on the moment, laughing at Maria's silly stories, the food that reminded her of home, and the warmth of genuine friendship surrounding her. But as they dined, the thought of her mother lingered, growing more vivid as the clock ticked, each second pulling Jamie closer to the inevitable conversation. Later, when they finished, she glanced at her phone, the screen lighting up with a notification, a message from her mother. Her heart skipped as she opened it, anticipation making her breath hitch in her throat. "Can you meet me tomorrow? I just want a chance to explain to see you." And there it was, the moment that would define everything. Would she run towards the light of understanding or retreat back into the shadows of her past? Do I have what it takes? She whispered under her breath, a question echoing back at her. Tomorrow would not simply be about facing her mother. It would be about facing herself. Time stood still in that cafe as Jamie's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Torn between hope and fear, she steeled herself for what was yet to come. Her choice loomed like a doorway, open wide, inviting yet daunting, holding the promise of resolution or the threat of further pain. Would she step through? The next morning, the sunlight burst through Jamie's bedroom window, spilling across her sheets like a herald of new beginnings. But instead of bringing comfort, it felt blinding and overwhelming. She sat up, heart racing, wrestling with the tidal waves of thoughts crashing over her. Would it really change anything? As she prepared for the day, each motion felt deliberate but heavy. The thought of seeing her mother again weighed on her as she brushed her hair and slipped into her favorite worn jeans. Her reflection in the mirror seemed different today, stronger, or perhaps just more determined. She wanted to believe she had the courage to face her past. Breakfast passed by almost in slow motion. Each bite felt like a ritual, a prelude to the encounter she dreaded. Her father stumbled into the kitchen, yawning and searching for coffee. "Big day today?" he asked, eyes barely open. "Just meeting someone," Jamie replied, feeling a little like she was preparing for battle. She couldn't bring herself to share too much, not why as she glanced at the time. A pang of anxiety hit. The cafe where they were to meet was just around the corner, a short walk away, but it felt like miles in her mind. She picked up her phone, staring at the message one more time. "Can you meet me tomorrow? I just want a chance to explain to see you." This wasn't just a meeting. It was a reckoning. With each step toward the cafe, Jamie's heart thudded louder. Faces passed her on the pavement, people lost in their own worlds, and yet each one felt like they were judging her, weighing her choices. The cafe appeared ahead, bright and inviting, but it felt like a storm gathering inside her. When she finally pushed open the door, the bell chimed a sweet sound that cut through the clangor of her nerves. She scanned the room, and there, at a table tucked in the corner, sat her mother. Time seemed to freeze as Jamie's breath caught in her throat. Her mother's presence was as familiar as it was foreign. The delicate features she recognized were shadowed by an uncertainty that mirrored Jamie's own. Jamie hesitated, terrified of the tidal wave of emotions ready to wash over her. The moment her mother noticed her, their eyes locked. There was a flicker of recognition, followed by a flash of something deeper: regret, longing, maybe even love. Jamie felt herself plant her feet, fighting the urge to bolt. She could do this. "Yes, you can," she whispered to herself, the mantra giving her just enough strength to approach. "Hi!" Her mother's voice trembled, breaking the silence. The word hung heavy in the air, a fragile bridge between them. "Hey," Jamie replied, her own voice shaky. They sat in the charged silence, each waiting for the other to speak. "Thank you for coming," her mother started, her eyes glistening. "I know I don't deserve this, but I truly want to explain." Jamie took a deep breath, feeling the ground beneath her shift. Would she listen or prepare for the next wave of pain? When faced with the aching desire for connection, the lines between past and present blurred, and for the first time, she felt the weight of hope pushing against her fears. As her mother began to share, Jamie's heart raced with the realization that this moment would either rebuild their connection or shatter it entirely. Would she find the answers she sought, or would this just open old wounds? Every word could change everything. "Jamie," her mother began, "there's so much you don't know," and right there, on the edge of discovery, Jamie found herself wondering what truth would look like and if it would give her the closure she craved or lead her further into the unknown. "Mom, what do you mean?" Jamie's voice cracked, the words spilling out before she could clamp down on them. The question hung between them, charged like static electricity. Her mother's fingers fidgeted with the edge of the napkin, a nervous habit Jamie recognized from childhood. "It's complicated," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to leave you. I thought I was doing what was best. But the truth is, I was lost. I was lost too, Jamie shot back, pain creeping into her tone. You were supposed to guide me. You were supposed to be there. The hurt radiated from Jamie, a deep ache that had lived in her chest for years. Her mother's eyes dropped, shame painted across her face. I know, she said softly, the words trembling as they left her lips. I failed you, Jamie. I didn't know how to face my own demons. And instead of staying, I ran. Running doesn't fix anything. Jamie blurted, anger bubbling up. Each admission felt like a punch to her gut, and she couldn't hold back the tears that threatened to spill. Listen to me. Her mother took a step closer, bridging the gap across their own chasms. I hurt you when I left, and I spent years regretting it. I was scared of being a bad mother and making you feel like you had to take care of me instead of the other way around. I thought letting you go would protect you. Protect me? By abandoning me? Jamie whispered, her voice trailing off, disbelief etched on her features. Her mother nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I see now that my choices were selfish. I thought I could give you a better life, but instead, I only gave you pain. A tear slipped down Jamie's cheek, and she wiped it away fiercely, angry at both her mother and herself. The dam she had built around her emotions was crumbling, and deeper questions surged within her. Could she allow herself to forgive? Did she even want to? Tell me everything, Jamie said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. If you really want to explain, then do it. I need to understand. As her mother closed her eyes and took a deep breath, an air of resolve enveloped the cafe, threading through the air like the aroma of fresh coffee. It wasn't just about me. There were things happening in our lives, your father's job loss. My own struggle with depression. I thought leaving would somehow take that burden off you. Jamie's heart twisted. She had been so wrapped up in her own pain that she never considered her mother's suffering. You should have told me, we could have fought this together. I know. I should have, but at that moment I couldn't see it. I was drowning and thought it was easier to push you away than to bring you down with me, her mother confessed. The revelation hit Jamie like cold water, and she felt the weight of a fractured past. A flicker of understanding glimmered inside her. Maybe her mother had been a coward, but wasn't she, too, guilty of avoiding pain? Did she not also run from the memories, locking them away to protect herself? Why did you come back? Jamie asked, a mixture of hope and skepticism in her voice. What changed? Her mother took another steadying breath, searching Jamie's eyes, a mix of determination and regret in her gaze. Because I want to make things right. I've spent so long regretting my choices, and I want to start healing. For both of us. With those words, Jamie felt something shift. A deep crack began to form in the shell she built around her heart. It was fragile, but it was a start, a sign that there might be a way forward together. And then, just as they were starting to connect, Jamie's phone buzzed, an urgent vibration cutting through the moment like a knife. She glanced down and saw a name that sent chills down her spine. David. Who's that? Her mother asked, noticing her sudden shift in demeanor. Jamie's heart raced again, but this time it was for a different reason. Just someone from my past. But I don't want to talk about him right now, not here. Maybe it's important? Her mother suggested gently, though Jamie could see the worry building behind her eyes. But Jamie felt a pull, a fear mingling with old memories that threatened to surface. What if David knew something that could shatter this fragile moment? Would she have to share another layer of her life she wasn't ready to reveal? With a racing heart and a choice to make, Jamie looked back at her mother. I need a moment. As she stood up, ready to step away, uncertainty gripped her once more. What else lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to find her? And would this unfolding truth bind them closer or tear them apart again? Jamie stepped away from the table, her heart racing. The buzz of the cafe faded into a dull hum as she felt the weight of her mother's gaze behind her. Each step away twisted her insides, a conflict of longing and dread. The phone screen glowed brighter in the dim light, and Jamie took a moment to steady herself before answering. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the green button, forcing her voice to stay calm. Hello? Jamie? It's David. His voice was like a mix of sweet memories and bitter reminders. Why are you calling? She replied too sharply, wishing she could hide the shake in her tone. Can we talk? I need to explain. A lot has happened since I've been what? She cut in, anger rising. Since I've been avoiding you? Because that worked out just fine. I'm not trying to upset you. Just meet me so we can get this out in the open, David pressed. There was a desperation in his voice that she couldn't ignore. Jamie glanced back at her mother, still seated and visibly tense. The thought of sitting back down and delving deeper into their unhealed past made her stomach knot. But she was also terrified of the shadows David represented from a chapter she thought she declosed. What do you want, David? She asked. Her voice softened a bit, curiosity mixing with resentment. I know about your mom coming back. I thought it was the right time to tell you everything, he said slowly. I'm at Miller's Park. Just come, please. You need to hear this from me. Though her instincts screamed to refuse, she felt a strange pull toward him. She hated how he could still affect her, even after all this time. Finally, she replied, Fine. I'll be there in 20 minutes. As she hung up, Jamie took a deep breath. The world felt heavy on her shoulders, and she had no clue what lay ahead. It was feeling all too familiar, running again, avoiding her truths. She could allow herself to be swept away, or she could hold onto her hard-earned resolve. Making her way through the bustling cafe, her mind was buzzing, her emotions a swirling storm. How could she put herself through this right after confronting her mother? Her heart still echoed with the questions they'd just begun to scratch the surface of, and yet David's call felt like a rupture waiting to unravel everything. The park was a short walk from the cafe. As she stepped outside, the crisp air hit her face, and she took a moment to breathe. She felt a mix of anxiety and determination, just as she had when she decided to confront her mother. What did David know that could change everything? As she approached the park, she spotted David leaning against a tree, hands shoved deep in his pockets, looking as lost as she felt. Memories flooded back, laughs shared, heartbreaks endured, and a betrayal that had scarred her in ways she barely understood. But this time, she wasn't the girl he would easily sway with flowery words. She was tired of running from her past, and maybe today was the day she could face it. Jamie, he said, straightening up when he noticed her. His expression held a mixture of hope and trepidation. What's this about? She demanded, her voice firm. He took a deep breath, and Jamie's heart raced as she prepared herself for whatever revelation was coming. I think I know why your mom left. Shock washed over her. As the cold breeze whipped through the trees, Jamie felt the ground shifting under her feet, readying her for the unearthed secrets that could either bind them all together or tear them apart for good. Would the truth bring closure or another wave of pain? The moment was heavy with possibility. Why did she leave? Jamie's voice trembled, barely a whisper against the wind. Memories of her mother's departure played like a broken record in her mind, each repeat deepening the wound. David shifted his weight, looking uncertain. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I think you deserve to know. Your mom, she didn't leave because she wanted to. It was complicated. Complicated. That word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jamie crossed her arms, trying to ward off the chill that seeped deeper than just the cold. How is that supposed to make sense to me? I was 15. I needed her. I know, and you were the last person she wanted to hurt. He spoke softly, each word deliberate. But there are things that were going on, things you didn't see. Jamie felt every heartbeat in her chest. What could possibly justify her leaving us like that? Anger bubbled in her throat. The pain she thought she'd buried reemerged, ready to rage. Your mom wasn't just deciding between staying and leaving. There were circumstances, something very serious. He hesitated, watching her face for signs of readiness. There was someone who was threatening her. It was hard for her to keep you safe. A jolt of confusion hit her. Threatening her? What do you mean? She stepped closer, feeling a mix of anger and a desperate need for answers. What kind of threat? David looked down, collecting his words like fragile pieces of glass. It wasn't just about her leaving you. It was about her trying to protect you from something she thought would come after you both. Her heart raced, Yet part of her felt numbly detached, like she was watching a tense thriller unfold and not a player in the game. You knew about this? And you didn't say anything before? I thought, he began, then paused, frustration flickering in his eyes. I thought it would be best to keep you away from what I thought were only shadows. I didn't realize how much the lack of information was hurting you. Jamie's breath caught. Shadows? So, my entire life has been unknowingly defined by shadows? She spat, bitterness lacing her words. No, Jamie. His voice softened, sincere. Not your life. Your mother was trying to find a way to fix it without you being involved. All she ever wanted was to keep you safe. Her stomach twisted. Safe? She made me feel abandoned. It was never meant to be like that. I swear. He stepped forward, his eyes urging her to understand. When she found out about the situation, it was too dangerous. She didn't have a choice. Jamie shook her head in disbelief. A whirlwind of fury, confusion, and hurt swirled inside her. You're asking me to believe that she loved me enough to leave? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense right now, David replied, his tone gentle. But Jamie, you have to find out more. There's so much more to this story. You may have to talk to her again. The thought sent a shiver through her. Talk to her? Could she truly face her mother again, knowing every cherished memory might have been built on lies? For a moment, silence enveloped them, the park around them growing dim as the sun dipped lower in the sky. The knot in her throat tightened. I thought digging into the past would provide answers, but now it only complicates everything. Sometimes, David said, taking a step closer, the truth does that before it sets you free. Jamie felt the weight of his words, an invitation tangled with fear. Was she ready to seek answers that could shatter her world again? Could she dare to hope for closure or understanding, even if it hurt? As the dusk settled, she felt the world narrowing down to this moment. Would she step into a path lit by the truth, or retreat into the shadows she'd always known? She met David's gaze, determination igniting within her. If I do this, I need to know everything. No more shadows. Then let us face it together. One step at a time. Just as they turned to leave, Jamie felt the familiar impulse to look back one last time. Miller's Park seemed to hold its breath, and she wondered what awaited her back in that world of memories? But her heart's quiet resolve whispered a promise to herself that no matter what she would uncover, she'd finally confront her past. Then came the thought, what if the next revelation was far more than she had ever expected? Jamie stepped away from Miller's Park, feeling the weight of the world lift slightly off her shoulders. Each footfall sent ripples of hope mixed with dread coursing through her. David walked alongside her, his silence a comforting presence. They hadn't said much since that conversation, but the air was electric with unspoken words, especially on what was to come. Do you really think I can find her? Jamie asked, breaking the stillness. The question escaped her lips before she could pull it back. Part of her was terrified of the answer. What if I can't? David turned to her, his eyes steady. You'll find a way. You've been digging through the shadows already. It's time to toss some light on it. She nodded but felt a lump forming in her throat again. He was speaking of things she hadn't even begun to process. How many layers of pain were tied to her mother's absence? She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to ground herself. I don't even know where to start. There's always a start. How about we go to your old house tomorrow? Maybe something there will jog your memory. The mention of her past home shot a thrill of fear straight to her core. It had been years since she'd set foot on that property. Years since she'd cleaned out her mother's possessions. What if I find something that hurts too much? Then we'll face it together, he said. You're not alone in this anymore. Each step felt heavier as they made their way back to her apartment. It wasn't just about finding her mother, it was about confronting the ghosts that haunted her. The memories of laughter and warmth mixed with the cold sting of abandonment loomed large. Do you regret not telling me sooner? Jamie asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. About everything? David paused, glancing at her with something like regret in his gaze. Sometimes knowing sooner isn't the answer. It's like opening a door to a storm. I didn't want to unleash that on you. But leaving me in the dark, it was to protect you, he interjected gently. But I see now that it might have caused more damage. They stood in front of her apartment door. The familiarity of it didn't ease her uncertainty. David, what if I go to my old house and don't find anything? What if it's just more shadows? Then you keep going. You have to believe that each step brings you closer to the truth, he replied. It's not about what you find. It's about confronting what has been hidden. With a deep breath, Jamie opened the door, stepping inside the small, dimly lit space. It felt both like home and like a prison. The walls seemed to echo memories, the laughter from family dinners, the warmth of her mother's smile. But now shadowy specters lingered. She took in the silence, letting it wash over her. Do you want to talk about what you remember? David asked, settling onto the worn couch. She shook her head, overwhelmed. Not yet. I can't face that right now. He nodded and remained silent, allowing her space. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, and with every tick, Jamie felt the tension mount. Each second was a reminder of what lay ahead. A reckoning with her mother, a moment that could transform everything. The idea of her mother's face loomed large in her mind, a faded photograph she could barely recognize. What would she say? Would she apologize? Would Jamie even be able to find it in herself to forgive? Then Jamie's phone buzzed, startling her. It was a message from an unknown number. You're looking for answers. Don't dig too deep. Some things are best left buried. Panic flooded her veins, her pulse racing. What did it mean? Were there still shadows watching her? David leaned forward, concern etched on his face. What is it? Her heart hammered. Someone knows I'm looking, she gasped, eyes wide with fear. Would this journey cost her even more than she bargained for? What if this is just the beginning? As uncertainty set in, Jamie's resolve deepened. She couldn't turn back now, not after unearthing so many truths. But the ominous message echoed in her mind. What if the next step uncovered a threat she wasn't prepared for? That night, as she lay in bed, she wondered what lay ahead. What truth would she find, and at what cost? The dawn broke with a soft golden glow, illuminating Jamie's room, but she hardly noticed. Her heart thundered with apprehension as the weight of yesterday's events settled on her like a heavy cloak. She and David had agreed to visit her old house. Today was another step into the unknown, into the labyrinth of her past. She dressed with purpose, her stomach churning from nerves. Each piece of clothing felt like armor, shielding her from the emotions that lay beneath the surface. Sitting at the kitchen table, she gingerly sipped her coffee, thoughts racing. What secrets waited behind those walls? David's earlier assurance played on repeat in her mind. You have to believe that each step brings you closer to the truth. A knock at the door broke her reverie. David stood there with an encouraging smile, a blend of determination and understanding in his eyes. Ready? He asked, and with a deep breath, Jamie nodded. Together, they stepped into the crisp morning air, and with each stride, Jamie felt the familiar street pulling memories from her like tendrils of smoke. When they reached her old house, the memories rushed back. The sound of laughter, the smell of her mother's perfume, the feel of chaos when it all crumbled into silence. The house loomed before them, its paint peeling and neglected, reflecting the abandonment she had felt for years. She hesitated, then reached for the door, her pulse racing as the door creaked open. The air inside felt thick with ghosts. Dust particles danced in the sunlight streaming through grimy windows, and the silence spoke volumes. Do you want to split up? David suggested. I can check the basement. You take the main floor? Jamie nodded, swallowing hard. Okay, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She moved through the rooms slowly, memories sparking at every turn. She paused in the kitchen, where breakfast was once an adventure and love filled the air. Now it felt stifled by echoes of the past. She opened cabinets, revealing empty spaces, remnants of lives lived and left behind. Nothing felt like a clue until she opened a drawer, and an old photo album tumbled out, hitting the floor with a weight so heavy it made her gasp. She flipped through its pages, Snapshots of joy and family flooded her heart. In one picture, a younger version of her mother held Jamie in her arms, laughter frozen in time. Those were the moments that felt real. But lurking among the joyful faces were images of worry and weariness, the shift in her mother a smile, a haunting reminder of what had been. "Jamie!" David called from below, pulling her back into the moment. She rushed to him, gripping the photo album tight. "Look what I found!" Excitement laced her voice, but underneath lay a twinge of sadness. His brow furrowed as he glanced at the pictures, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "These are precious." "Yeah." Jamie breathed, emotions swirling within her. "Feels like a time capsule. That's why you're here. To find those pieces," David encouraged gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jamie led him into the living room, where memories hung in the air like a mist. "You really think this stuff finds us for a reason?" she asked, feeling a soft thrum of hope within the ache. "Absolutely," he replied, his gaze steady. "It's about understanding. The past shapes us, but it doesn't define us." Jamie contemplated his words, a spark igniting her resolve. "What if my mom returns again? What if she wants to talk?" "Then you're ready," David assured her. "You've come this far. No matter what we unearth, you can face it." Taking a deep breath, Jamie walked toward the hallway, the part of the house she had avoided long enough. With each step, her heart raced, knowing whatever secrets lingered there could shift the adrenaline coursing through her veins. At the end of the hall stood a door she had not opened in years. With trembling fingers, she turned the rusty handle and pushed it open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room filled with darkness and unfinished dreams. There, tucked away in the corner, lay her mother's old journal. Jamie knelt down, heart pounding as she rifled through the pages, recognizing her mother's familiar handwriting. Words poured out, raw thoughts, fears, and confessions that clawed at her insides. "I miss her so much," one entry read. "I fear she'll never understand why I left. I thought it was best for her." Every word sliced through Jamie with clarity. Her mother had not been absent without cause. She had been battling shadows of her own. Each revelation etched deeper into Jamie's heart. "Jamie?" David's voice broke through her reverie, concern etched on his face. "What did you find?" It's what I needed," she replied, her breath hitching as tears filled her eyes. It's her voice. They exchanged a soft moment, a lingering understanding between them. Now it felt more than revisiting a past. It felt like stepping into an understanding that the journey had always been about healing. Wrapping the journal in her arms, Jamie glanced back at David, who was watching her, pride threading through his gaze. "You'll be okay," he reassured softly. "Even if it hurts." With newfound strength, Jamie stood. It was time to unravel the mess of emotions that had kept her buried in bitterness and anger. It was time to embrace her mother in the light of truth. As they stepped out of the house, the sun brightened the horizon, and Jamie felt the weight of uncertainty start to lift. Each step forward was a step towards closure, towards healing, and towards an understanding that she could finally grasp. "Are you ready to reach out to her again?" David asked, breaking the silence between them. "I am," Jamie answered, letting the truth spill from her lips. "I want answers. I want to hear her side. The scary but I can't hide anymore." And with that, they moved forward together, into whatever awaited them. Clarity rushed over her like a tidal wave, washing away old fears. She knew there were still shadows to confront, but now they felt manageable, and she wasn't alone in facing them. The journey towards forgiveness had begun in earnest, and Jamie felt lightness bubbling within her heart, a hope reborn, tinged with the promise of connection, understanding, and perhaps, love. "Jamie, let us do this," David said, squeezing her hand. "Let us do it," she replied resolutely, ready to embrace the unknown, ready to finally heal. As they walked away from the old house, side by side, Jamie knew her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet fathom. But whatever lay ahead, she would meet it with courage, heart open, ready to discover the light against the shadows of her past. This was it, the moment of transformation, the beginning of a new chapter. You need to subscribe now to follow along on this incredible journey. Don't wait not even one more second. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show you want to see more inspiring stories. Comment below with your reactions. How has Jamie's journey impacted you? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.